I believe that the fastest avenue towards growth is getting feedback. And that's why I believe that getting feedback is a huge gift, and giving feedback is also a gift that you can give to others. And so I'm going to get really vulnerable here, and I'm going to share a piece of feedback that I received, a great gift that I received from my wife a few weeks ago. And I've been sitting with this piece of feedback, and I want to share some thoughts that I had around it. And the feedback is this: my wife said to me, Brandon, you only hear what you want to hear. And I sat with that piece of feedback, and a few thoughts came up for me. And number one, she's exactly right. Because number two, and this is not me absconding, I'll come back around in a minute here, but I believe that for the most part, we all only hear what we want to hear. Because our ears are finely tuned instruments, and they're finely tuned to listen for the frequency of messages that align with our inner monologue. What we hear is our thoughts being reflected back to us. Let me give you a very specific example. So I'm in Indiana. And for those of you that are also in Indiana, but other parts of the country too, you've probably noticed there's some snow outside. And one of my least favorite parts of home ownership is when it snows. Well, we've got to shovel the driveway and shovel the sidewalks, right? And I do not enjoy that. So Sunday, it snowed all day, and there was a break in the snow late afternoon, and my wife and I go out there and we shovel the driveway and we shovel the sidewalks, and then we come back inside, job well done, feeling so good about it. And what happens? It continues to snow. And the next morning we wake up and there's snow on the driveway, and I am not happy about that snow. And I have all these thoughts going around of, I'm going to have to go out there and shovel the driveway. And a couple hours later, I had a meeting with someone on the phone. So I've got this thought of, I'm going to have to shovel the driveway. And this person I'm supposed to be speaking to, I've got some thoughts about this person. And the thoughts all surround, this person always pushes my buttons. Every time I talk to this person, they push my buttons. So I'm going to have to shovel the driveway. This person always pushes my buttons, right? Those are the two thoughts that are really occupying my inner monologue. And so I get on the phone with this person, and the first thing they say is literally, snowed a lot out there. There's going to be a lot of people shoveling. So, of course, what I hear is him pushing my buttons about how I'm going to have to shovel the driveway. When, is that what they meant? Like, is that what they were trying to get across? And the answer is very likely no. And yet that's what I heard because my thoughts were being reflected back to me. So we hear those things that are aligned with our inner monologue. And there's a lot of power in that understanding because it also means that we have a lot of power to shape what we're hearing and our reality. But we only have that power when we're aware of the frequency that we are tuned to. And so if we're tuned to a frequency of I don't want to shovel and this person's going to push my buttons, right? That's the messages that we're going to hear. So okay, so if we're aware of our frequency, what do we do with that, right? Well, there are two things I want to share with you. And the first is how we can change our own frequency when the messages that we're hearing, so what's being reflected to us, which is our thoughts, when that's not serving us, as well as how we can better tune to the frequency of others. So let's start with changing our own frequency. Step one is when we start to realize that our frequency is not serving us, is pressing pause. Because so much of the noise that creates that frequency lives up here. And until we can take a deep breath and get out of here for a moment and check in with our body, take a few deep breaths, that's the only way we're going to be able to change the frequency. And I'll share a few things that I found that really work for me after I've been able to press pause and find some stillness. I know for me, music is a huge way to intentionally change that frequency. Right now, there's a re-release of some old Nina Simone songs that when I put that on, I feel my energy shift immediately. I also know that rain or shine, snow or whatever, if I go for a walk, that changes the frequency for me, and that's really powerful for me. But let's imagine that I'm trying to change to the frequency of someone else. So often when the messages that are reflecting back to us, again, aren't serving us, it's because of sticky thoughts in our head, like, oh my gosh, I have to shovel the driveway, or oh my gosh, this person pushes my buttons, or oh my gosh, this meeting is a waste of my time, or how long is this going to take? Those sticky thoughts that are pervasive, that's noise in our heads, right? And that's really us focusing on what's going on in our world. And while, as I said, there are some things that you can do to unstick those thoughts, to get out of that by pressing pause, taking a deep breath, listening to some music, going for a walk. If you're trying to tune to the frequency of others, if you're too stuck in your own frequency, you're not going to be able to connect with theirs. The only way that you can get out of your own stuff is by taking the spotlight that is at that moment being pointed inwards and focusing it on that other person. And asking questions and really tapping into not only what's on their mind, what are they thinking, but what are they feeling right now? It's listening to the emotion behind the words. When we intentionally focus on the person across from us and ask thoughtful questions. What are you excited about? What's going on in your world? Just naturally, we start to get less focused on the noise up here, and we're able to really tap into and align with their frequency and be able to hear what they're trying to communicate to us. And while I know for me, this is a journey, like if going all the way back to the beginning of being intentional to tap into the frequency of what my wife is trying to share with me, it's also just being hyper aware of where am I in different moments. And when I realize that the frequency I'm at is not serving me very well, being intentional about taking the actions that shift my frequency. So I'm curious, as you're listening to this, not only what's coming up for you, but where's your frequency today?